during the commercial, I just figured something out. How does Dan, the only reason Dan knows Colin's on Girls is because he watches it every freaking week, probably. I wouldn't have known Colin was ever on Girls until you told me. And quite frankly, it's like when I watched that beheading online. I wish I didn't know he was on.
Yeah. You said you and them. You put you with them, Joey. That meant something.
You mean, what you with them?
That was the early...
You're driving me crazy.
That was the early years of psychotherapy in America when he goes, that meant something, Joey. You said you with them.
This is more Raging Bull, by the way.
Yes,
you
Raging
put
Bull.
yourself in with them. By the way, the way he's eating a sandwich in that scene, it's just too perfect.
Hey, I don't even know what Girls is.
It's the hipster show on HBO.
Yeah, and
It's all the rage. Everyone's
just
talking
girls.
about it, John.
I thought Game of Thrones was the
well, Game of Thrones is the other side, right?
They have a dozen shows.
So if you're a man, you watch Game of Thrones.
Well,
Game of Thrones is to men as Girls is to women.
I don't know if Game of Thrones is to men. No.
Well, it's not to you.
No, we don't
What
like
is Game of Thrones.
Me and
You
Artie
don't watch Game of Thrones either?
No, me and Artie.
Oh, come on.
Me and Artie have something in common. We don't like. I'm assuming on Artie. We don't like comic books. We don't like any superhero stuff.
Yeah.
We just like authentic, like
Game of Thrones
Goodfellas.
isn't a superhero.
Game of Thrones.
No, it's
It's
like
a fantasy. Well, Shane said it last night. It's a
kinda.
fantasy, right?
Yeah, but it's
It's got a
you
lot
know,
of hot nude scenes, though, right?
They do have some.
I would have to put the mute on and put like an Allman Brothers album on. So by the way, after Adrian showed me the Girls, I said, here's the scenario. Probably, someone there is a fan of Colin, and they asked him to do something on the show, right? I mean,
I was
Apatow or
on.
someone wanted you to do it. Yeah.
I was on again. This
He wrote a
last week.
fan letter. Come on.
Yeah. Calm
Look,
down over there.
I want to talk about Machete's intervention.
Mike, do you realize? Do you even know the enormity of how ridiculous what you're going to do is? You're going to go to L.A. and just show up at the Kimmel show?
No,
without
I'm trying to have Joel fix it for me now. The thing is, I was going to go out there.
your manager, this poor guy who drives you here.
But
every
why
day.
don't you try to get in on Fallon or something like that? Why are you going
why
to L.A.?
Why are you driving to L.A.?
I don't know if I talked to people at Fallon, and Jeff Singer was there. He said, they just. I just have a hard time
When's the
with
last time?
stand-up shows,
When's the
really,
last time
because
you talked to someone at Kimmel?
I really don't know who's over there now, really.
But
because
here's what I'm trying to tell you.
No,
what I'm
but
trying
I'm
to say
serious.
is you're doing stand-up on the regular, right?
yeah, but the thing is, Colin, I always had a hard time with the late night shows doing stand-up because
I know, but you're living in the 80s. Nobody cares who does late-night stand-up anymore.
It's true.
It
It's not
doesn't
like-
help your career.
It's not like Louis Anderson that had a good spot on the Tonight Show.
Right.
And
Nobody cares.
started making
It's just a
5 G's a week.
psychological thing.
Yeah.
Let it go. You're on the show. You're doing great. You're doing stand-up. What do you want to be on these dumb shows for?
And how often are you doing stand-up now? You're not honed enough to do something.
Are you not doing a lot of
no,
stand-up?
I can still.
He's not. He's not going out there.
I would still kill a lot, I'm sure.
I'll still.
No, I'm not. I don't doubt myself at all.
Yeah, but Mike, you can't.
But who? I'm saying, but it's irrelevant.
Have you been in show business at all for the last time? Probably not.
It's irrelevant. Being on those shows does nothing for your career. It's not
Listen
like
to
the old
Colin.
days.
Listen to Colin.
Why are you bothering with that?
I
Don't
love Kimmel.
stress
I'm a huge
about it.
fan. I always wanted to be on the show.
What's that on his show?
Yeah, I love Jimmy a lot.
Well, you
I'm a
sound
huge
like a
fan.
14-year-old girl from Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
about
love
that
his
show.
work since like Ben Stein's Money.
Okay,
I love
all right.
Jesus,
God,
Mike, we love you as you. You
Well, we did.
we did until you started saying I love you since Ben
This
Stein.
is crazy, Mike. You really sound like
By the way-
Sarah Jessica Parker's character in Girls Just Want to Have
Well,
Fun.
I got excited
You
when
sound like you're gonna have a piece of red velvet cake.
That's inevitable.
That's my favorite.
Colin, I got something for Dan. Dan likes to break my own balls too a lot because can you play this game? This is when Dan goes to me. It's a sound drop I made where Dan should be getting off the train. Chugga chugga woo!
What are you talking
Next
about?
up, loser Bill.
The run-on sentences are getting worse and worse.
No, when Dan goes for me, I like breaking his balls because. No, this was about Dan where he should get off. If he takes a train, where he should be going.
What are you talking about?
Listen. Next up, Loserville. That's Dan's favorite town. Where he should
Loserville?
Yeah.
That's pretty harsh.
Is your next line going to be, where are you from, the planet Stupider? Mike, but
I made that to create for Dan. I love Filato. He's one of my favorite people, really, in real
you're
life.
not making any sense.
No, Dan
No.
is a good guy.
Is this the material you're going to use on camera?
No. It might probably kill on there, I'm
Your
sure.
new, your new nervous thing, by the way, is you adjust your chair every 2 seconds.
I feel like you're short wiring right now. Listen to
my
me.
chair is killing me.
You know what we discovered about him last night,
My
Colin?
chair's killing me.
That he tweets with a guy named Drunk Hitler.
Oh,
his new
I've
favorite.
seen that. I've seen
There's
that.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, people are nice to you when I get back to them, Dan. I don't, avoid them like you might. You know what I mean? people tweet you got to be nice. If they're respectful.
You felt obligated to be nice to drunk Hitler?
Yeah, the guy's name's Drunk Hitler.
Well, he gave me a compliment, you know what I mean? So I got
I just realized it. Mike would be great on Game of Thrones.
I don't even know what that is. And you're probably right.
Right.
But wait a minute, Mike. The guy was nice to you. You sound like so needy.
No,
you sound so needy. Drunken Hitler told me I have nice hair.
No,
I
he
gotta
said
get back
nice
to
hair. I
him.
forgot what he said. Something really cool.
You
He's
don't
right.
have to get back to everybody.
You don't have to be, exactly. You don't have to be, you've got this unctuous thing has really gone too far now.
By the way, you know what I noticed about the people that follow you, Colin, on Twitter? There's a lot of real funny guys. When you start the bit about putting a Goodfellas lines in, or in other movies that we love, lines into a different scenario, they really come up with funny stuff. Like I'm laughing out loud at some of the stuff.
I
when
am
look at it.
so funny. And meanwhile, some of the comedian friends of mine, they come in late and they try to throw in a line, and then they get mad if I don't retweet him sometimes because they're not up to that level.
He does a thing where, with his Twitter followers, where he put, like, what's a scenario you give him? Like, Goodfellas is in.
Well, like now you would do it like, let's say Goodfellas, for Memorial Day weekend. No, that's a bad example. Let's say 4th of July weekend.
Right.
And then it starts out, suddenly it's Goodfellas Independence Day, and they start doing the Founding Fathers. And,
but with lines from Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are great.
Yeah.
So now, what's with the one man show now? Give me the lowdown on this.
It's been up for about 4 days.
Right.
And like I told you, it's got a lot of,
A lot of heat.
a lot of hate. Yeah. And,
Unconstitutional.
it's right down the block. Unconstitutional. And it's sort of like, it's a subject, like my new thing is just take boring subjects that bored me, like the Constitution always did.
Right.
And try to make it funny for an hour.
And so how do you do that? Like, what's an example? What do you do?
Well, like, I was telling you the Springsteen thing before. I do this thing about Springsteen.
You do a whole bit about Bruce in there.
About Bruce, which we know is Artie's idol. And
I like Bruce Springsteen. I do, yeah.
it's beyond like. He loves Bruce. Like
I love
Jersey-
Springsteen.
Everybody in New Jersey is obsessed with Bruce Springsteen. So
What is
basically,
the
I'm talking about how Congress, they set it up so that the taxpayers with the middle class, they're like, you're the middle class, we work for you,
Right.
and then you pay. And what Bruce does, he's like the working man, but he doesn't give discounts on those tickets. So all the working men come to his concert, and it's like, hey. And I said, if you really cared about the working man, if you really were worried about the working man, would you do a 4.5-hour concert on a Tuesday night? I said, because, Bruce gets to sleep in, and this guy's getting up the next morning, and some iron worker burns his fingers off because Bruce wants to do a 37-minute Rosalita at 11:05.
Yeah, this guy's entire future depends on whether or not Bruce wants to do Bobby Jean. But a lot of the guys get overtime though, who work for him. They get overtime for that. What about that?
The guys that work for him, but I'm talking about the audience.
People.